Okay, now I've let this piece set up to where it's actually past leather hard. If I try to bend this, it doesn't really want to bend. It's not very flexible. And then this, super firm, does not want to bend in the least. Holds its shape nicely like that. So now that is not perfect, but it puts me in the ballpark. And so I'm just going to shave off some extra. This is a Sureform that you can just get at your local hardware store. You can use that to shave off extra, or you can use your cleanup tool to cut off, or you've got too much material. It's better to have too much than too little. And since this is nice and flush, nice and flat, I'm going to make this slab the same angle. So I'm going to cut away a little bit. Okay, that's pretty close to fitting. It doesn't look great, but I'm going to fix that. So, because my piece is just a little past leather hard, I need to score really well. So I'm going to score in at least 2 different directions, and I'm going to score deeply. Clay really likes to fall in love with itself when it's wet, but as it dries, it doesn't attach as well. So that's why you really need to score well and use plenty of slip so that it sticks together. And now I need to add my welding coil, and again, I'm scoring very deeply and at least 2 different directions. And adding more slip. And this time I'm using a pretty generous welding coil on the outside, just to help make things look a little bit more even. So having that chunky welding coil sure did help make it look better, but it still doesn't look great. So then I will take my paddle and sort of paddle that into shape, make it look better still. And then I'm going to do a little bit more blending and compressing. So that's a pretty decent dome-like shape. I have some weird divots here and there, and so I might take a different sort of paddle and paddle from the inside to help that be a little bit more rounded. But so because I added this slip, all of that amount of slip just made this top portion squishy. Like when I push it, it gives. And so now if I were to turn it upside down, it would collapse on me. And let's say I want to keep it nice and round. So I'm just making myself a clay waster. This piece of clay is just going to get wasted. I'll end up throwing it in reclaim because it's right now just going to be used for support so that I don't flatten my bottom. So now you can see the inside of my vessel needs a welding coil. Okay, so now this portion of my vessel is pretty darn firm. It really does not want to move at all. So it's a nice consistency. It might be here on the dry side for adding clay, so I'm just going to add just a little bit of moisture here. Not much at all. And I already have a wet circle cut out. You can see how floppy this is. It's very wet. And so what I can do, because I do like the consistency, I like how firm this is, I like how it's holding its shape. So I want to maintain this consistency. So I'm just going to cover this top portion up with plastic. And then I'm going to do the same trick as before. And so this is my compressed side. This side has the campus texture, so I'm putting my compressed side inward. And again, I'm letting gravity do its thing. And so now, once I feel like I have a decent shape here, I'm going to let this set up until it's the same consistency as this, and then I'll flip it over and attach it. So that's all I can do with this for now until it sets up. Okay, now I've let this set up to be really firm. And it seems like it's pretty close to the same firmness. So this is past leather hard, it's really not bendy. And same as this, so I'm squeezing it and trying to bend it to see if they're the same consistency, and they are very close. So I'm going to go ahead and use it. It doesn't fit super well, it fits okay. So I'm just going to level this out a little bit, which is probably going to make it fit a little bit worse. But at least it's going to come in closer contact. So I should have made this just slightly taller, because as it shrank, it doesn't really fit as well anymore. It's close. But I'm just going to make it fit. All right, that was really helpful. I'm going to do that again. Okay, that's pretty good. So, again, since your clay is dried out quite a bit, since it's past leather hard, you really need to do a good job scoring it. So, score it deeply and generously. And go in 2 different directions. And use plenty of slip so that it really glues the clay together. And now, since I'm closing this off, I have no way to get to the inside to add a welding coil. So therefore, it becomes much more important to really do a good job of scoring and slipping this section. And it becomes even more important to do a very good job scoring this section here as well, because I'm going to add a welding coil on here, and I'll probably end up scraping away the majority of that welding coil. And so the welding coil that's left is going to reside in these score lines. And so that's why I want to score pretty deeply and generously, because the welding coil left in the score lines is really going to be doing all the work helping to hold it together. So in this instance, I'm scoring in 3 different directions. And I'm going to use a pretty generous welding coil to help compensate for any sort of places where there are divots or isn't quite a seamless transition. And so oftentimes I like to flatten out my welding coil, since I want it to bridge the 2 different slabs. Just does it a lot more easily this way. And then I'm going to blend it with my serrated. And I'm really, again, I'm compressing in that clay. I'm really not scraping anything away. I'm really just compressing that clay into those score lines. So, that does not look like the most perfect sphere. And so right now you've got all this trapped air, which is help keeping it from collapsing. It's a really nice thing at this point. At some point, you will have to put an air hole in here somewhere before you put it in the kiln. Otherwise, it will explode. But right now, having all that trapped air, it is a really nice thing because it keeps it from collapsing in on itself. It's pretty firm anyway. It doesn't really want to collapse as it is. And obviously, because this clay is really wet here where I attached it, it's really sticky. And so it keeps kind of wanting to fall off. So it might be smart to wait a little bit, cover the whole thing up, let it sit up a little bit, let this wet clay sit up a little bit, redistribute a little bit before I really start pounding to keep it from sticking to my paddle. But I'm impatient. Or you can get a piece of fabric, a sock or something, and put it on your paddle, and that'll help keep it from sticking. So that's decent. That's not a bad sphere. You can also distort it, turn it more into an egg shape if you want. But right now, I think I would, if I really wanted it to be a sphere, I'd wrap it up, let it dry a little bit, let the water content redistribute. So wrap it up, let the water content redistribute, let these really wet parts dry a little bit. And then I could, probably it's subtle enough, I could go over it once it's firm and go at it with my Sureform to really help clean it up. Right now it's really wet. The Sureform doesn't work quite as well when your clay is super duper wet. But that's how you make a sphere.